You know a series is going to be good when you've got Tenants for the Dead. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I am Andrew, and today I got another book review for you, but before we get to that book review, make sure you're liking and subscribing, hitting that bell notification so you can get regular updates for when I put out new content. I post every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Also, make sure you're checking that description box down below for the link to the Wizardly Duo Discord, as well as links to all my social media and information about my Patreon. And today guys, this is a series kind of discussion that I've been wanting to do since I pretty much discovered BookTube. I remember all the way back in the early days, I was watching Mark from Slowly Read, and he mentioned this little book called Chasing Graves by Ben Galley. And I never forgot about it. And I've always wanted to read it until finally Lana from Lore and Lullabies bought me the first book. And she was like, this has been on your TBR for too long. It's about time you read it. And then recently, a bunch of members in my Discord, some of my Patreon members were like, hey, do you want to do a buddy read? And I said, absolutely. And so we kind of just created a channel in the Discord and we started talking about it. And I'm finally done with this very entertaining trilogy. This is self-pub, and it's got some amazing covers from Felix Ortiz. Look at this. Look at that. It also does the thing where, like, when you can kind of point to a scene in the book and be like, oh, that's where the cover comes from. So yes, this is like gorgeous spines as well. They look good on the shelf. But yeah, I am very, very happy to have read this. Overall, if I have to give it just a solid rating as a series, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. And we're going to talk about why. This is now the back of the book says fantasy horror, but I would say it's dark fantasy. There's nothing in here like truly horrifying. But it is a very, very unique world. Essentially, we are in a world, not living in a world, but we are in a world, I would not want to live in this world, where the gods, about 1,000 years ago, granted humanity the ability to live past their life. But there's some set rules that have to be met in order to do that, which I'll read you the Tenants of the Dead in a minute or so. But essentially, you can come back and continue on living, but usually it's as a slave. And it's not exactly a good thing because this has happened, the gods are now gone, and it's become an abused system. Very abused to the point where it's like running the economy. This world or city like trades in dead people. Basically, it trades in your shades by exchanging and purchasing half coins, which can be found in the beginning of this book with the Tenants of the Dead. And it's very, very helpful to kind of let you know what this is all about. Basically, the Tenants of the Bound Dead. They must die in turmoil. They must be bound with copper half coin in the water of the Nyx, which is kind of like the river Styx, the river of the dead. They must be bound within 40 days. They shall be bound to whomever holds their coin, which is literally, if I take your coin and I'm holding it, I now own you. So it's literally just as much as having it in your hand. They are slaved to their master's bidding. They must bring their masters no harm. They shall not express opinions nor own property. And they shall never know freedom unless it's gifted to them. Now, the slave to their master's bidding, bring their masters no harm, and not express opinions, it kind of plays fast and loose throughout the series. And this is a very, very fun book, this is a very fun book series, like I said. However, it's more like popcorn, where like it's really, really good, but it doesn't have a whole lot of caloric, doesn't have a whole lot of nutritional value. And what I mean by that is if you kind of take a magnifying lens and look at certain aspects of this series, you're going to go, that didn't make sense. That didn't make sense. And just one instance of that is Araxis, the city where most of this takes place, is it's a city that gets like a million, let's just say a million visitors a year. 500,000, so 50% of the yearly visitors go missing in Araxis every year. If you have a 1 in 2 chance of dying because you have visited a city, you won't visit that city. Not for pleasure, and certainly not if you don't have to. And so it just kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But other than that, like, it's very, very, very entertaining. Now, the characters here are also incredibly interesting. So let's start by talking about Cultro, which one of my main complaints in book 1 is we don't get enough Cultro, because when you read the back of the book, it literally, top of the line, it says, meet Cultro Basalt. Well, he's only in it 25% of the time because it's a multi-POV story, and I didn't know that. So just a small critique on the blurb on the back. But basically, Cultro is a craftsman who is coming to Araxes at the bidding of the Cloudpiercer, which is where the royal family resides, and all the nobles kind of meet there at the Cloudpiercer. You've got your Taurs, your Serix, and basically the way you're a noble depends on like how many half coins you possess, which is how many shades you own. It's become their economy. And Cultro shows up, steps off the boat, and immediately gets axed. Like, it's not a good situation for him. He gets enslaved, he gets sold, and we spend the rest of the trilogy with Cultro trying to win his way free. We then meet Nilith out in the desert. She's not in Araxes. She has gone, and she has killed her husband, Fazir, I believe. Fazar? Anyway, and she is dragging him back to bind him, and she is going to teach him a lesson because she caught him with in a compromising position with a whole bunch of women. And yeah, they do not have a good, healthy husband-wife relationship. And then we follow Cecine, which is the Empress in waiting, or the Emperor's daughter, in the Cloudpiercer, while she is basically what has happened is the Emperor has locked himself away in a room for the last 5 years and is just passing out messages through a slot and doesn't talk to anybody. And that's how he governs. And so she decides, well, I'm going to try and usurp the throne. If he's not going to come out and he won't talk to anybody, no one's going to know. And so she starts kind of tinkering with the structure of Araxes and making royal decrees in her father's name. It's really from her name. And things of that nature. We've also got various cults. We've got the Cult of Sesh, which is, Sesh is a god of chaos. He's one of the dead gods. And these people kind of, we're kind of trying to figure out what the Cult of Sesh is up to throughout the entirety of the story. And overall, guys, like, this is just fantastic self-pub. Now, I do have, of course, structural issues with the books and things of that nature, like certain things didn't make sense, which kind of, I can't turn off the analytical side of my brain sometimes, and it kind of hampered my enjoyment of it. Like, if I'd been able to turn that off and just accept the story at face value, and this is the way this world works, and these are how these people think, I'd have enjoyed it a lot more. Because, frankly, it's really polished self-pub. I really recommend this to fans of dark fantasy, just because it's so interesting. This is a very funny story. There's a lot of dark humor within this story. Like, when we meet Cultro, he's getting off the boat, but, like, he's had an annoying old noblewoman, and so he decides to use the bathroom in her lockbox. And, like, that's his parting gift for such a miserable voyage with this woman. And so, like, that kind of immediately sets the tone for the type of humor that you're kind of gonna get in this series. One thing I do want to mention is your non-human, like, side characters are awesome. And, like, literally, we've got all different types of, like, dead. We've got just regular working shades. We've got, I believe they're called soul-bound and animal-bound, where, like, you can bind a human soul into an animal. And so we've got animal companions with human souls in them. Entirely hilarious. We've got objects with souls in them, which are also awesome. And so when we kind of meet these characters, you're just kind of like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And by the end, I was in love with these characters. So yes, I highly recommend this to lovers of dark fantasy. Grim Solace was probably my favorite book. Oh wait, I'm touching Breaking Chaos and saying Grim Solace. Grim Solace, I think, was my favorite. This was just a very interesting book, because the main antagonist, I would say, in this story is somebody called Temza. Temza is a soul stealer who steals and sells, or who basically what a soul stealer does is they go out at night, they kill people, they bind their souls, and then they sell them at market, which is basically like a slave trade. And he does this to Cultro, but he's got ambitions. And so what he does is he's just going around knocking people off. and stealing all of their coins and trying to become nobility. And so seeing his arc where like absolute power corrupts and like he's just got this thirst for power, and it's really, really interesting to see all the character relationships and to see how it all kind of weaves together in this really intricate web that is the Jason Graves trilogy. Overall, like I said, 4 out of 5. Fans of dark fantasy will love this. And that said, guys, I look forward to reading more from Ben Galley because I've got a lot more of his books. That's all I got for you today, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of Jason Graves, or if you plan on picking this one up. And until next time, guys, peace out. Stay magical. Bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.